Thank you all very much for attending today. My name's David Eagle, consultant at OneSpatial, and we're going to do a brief run through of the 5 hot features that you might have missed in the FME2016 release. So thanks for attending, and here we go. So things just to review really, FME2016 desktop has been available since January, and it was actually a staggered release. 2016 server was launched in February, so I would recommend that if you downloaded the initial FME desktop installer straight away, then you probably want to look to be downloading the latest build, because when server was released, they launched a small dot release of FME desktop, and it's much more important that you do that if you are a server customer, because you should ideally try to keep your FME builds matched. If you go to the safe.com/downloads website, that's the friendly URL to access it, you will find a what's new file. It's a what's new.txt. You can download that and see what changes have happened in the software in the latest build. It's a very handy text file to review if you've got a spare few minutes just to go and see some of the really subtle changes that might have appeared that don't pop up in all of the webinars and things that are being published. Those of you who are attending may also have been over and had a look at SAFE's webinar list. You can see that, safe.com/webinars. The 3 main webinars that will be of interest to you are the unveiling and the 2 deep dive webinars. We try not to repeat what SAFE publish in their webinars. What we try to do is either cover things that they haven't covered, or cover what they've just mentioned in passing a little bit more detail, so that you can see how they're used. And that's the intention today. So we're looking at 5 hot features, and we'll see where we go. A couple of things to say about ourselves. OneSpatial, we've been around for a good while now. We have assorted offices around the world, and we work with some very large and some very small customers globally in a lot of different sectors. We work with a number of technology partners, and the one that obviously we're focusing on today is our relationship with the SAFE Software, with whom we are a platinum partner. SAFE Software themselves are over 20 years old. They are a very established company and have a very established product set, and if you happen to have stumbled onto this webinar not knowing very much about SAFE Software and FME at all, well, firstly, welcome, and secondly, FME is all about data moving data from A to B, whether that's moving data from a proprietary platform or an open source platform, in between one and the other, between different applications, whether it's GIS or CAD, cloud-based services, or spatial data and non-spatial data. You name it, there are hundreds of formats supported in FME, and equivalent transformations to restructure the data so it's fit for purpose and it sits in those environments as it was intended. The 3 main products that SAFE build are FME Desktop, FME Server and FME Cloud. FME Desktop is the authoring environment. It's what you're going to see mainly today. FME Server allows you to access ETL routines, extract, transform and load routines through a web browser, through a REST API, through web services. So it allows non-FME users to leverage ETL processes. And FME Cloud is effectively FME Server hosted on the Amazon AWS environment. So it's all set up and ready to go. You just need to create an account, launch an instance, and away you go. So they're the main products from SAFE. Our Personal capability, our capability around the FME product set. We've been a reseller now for a good while, since 1999. As I said earlier on, we're a platinum partner. We've got a number of individuals globally who have different certification levels. Myself, certified professional and trainer. And you're welcome to get in touch with us at FME@onespatial.com around any queries you might have about things that you're trying to do with FME, or perhaps some training that you want. Anyway, enough of the pitch, more about the technical detail, because that's what we're here to find out. So first up, one of the first new capabilities is around operators. Operators that have been added largely into the tester, but they feature in other places, so you'll find wherever a test operation is possible, like in the test filter and some of the other transformers, these new operators appear. In range type is, encodable in, and attribute has a value. The last one being my personal favourite because it saves you doing a few extra clicks. The in range, strictly speaking, not new, renamed, used to be between, but it is subtly different. So let's go and take a look at those in a little bit of detail. So if I drag in FME2016, and hopefully you can see that happily, and I'll go and get a little workflow here that's pre-configured, and you can see that hopefully in a little bit of detail. So I'll zoom in a bit so you can see that, and we'll have a quick look at some of these options. So if we have a look at the encodable in to begin with, you can see that at the moment I have a creator transformer set up. If you haven't used the creator transformer before, it's a really handy little transformer, because it allows you to create some dummy data, assorted data, different types of geometry. No longer do you need to go and open up a GIS application or an Excel spreadsheet to create some dummy data. You can just right click, add an attribute, give it a name, give it a value, and then use that as a test. So in this case I've added in a small Chinese character to go and run a test, and here we're going to test where that value is encodable in Chinese character code. So if we run that part of the process, and you see I've got it toggled on to prompt and run, which is another new 2016 feature, but here we can see that it passed the test, and it throws the information out to the data inspector to prove that it passed. If we dive in and swap the encoding to, say, an Arabic encoding, and run that Chinese character through the Arabic encoding, it fails the test. So we move on to type is, and I'm just going to Control E, which is the keyboard shortcut to disable the creator, and I'll enable that link. Here the tester has got a type is, so this is data type. Is the dog park attribute set to a Boolean? Well, you might, if you go and have a look at that option, so we've got a little FME26 one-click launch now to launch the data, and go and have a look at it. You might be misled based on this data that the dog park attribute is actually a Boolean, a yes, no, a true, false, a 1 or a 0. So if we go and run this process through to find out if it actually is set in that way, then we'll soon find out quickly. Okay, and all of that data failed the test, which actually means that if we go and have a look in a bit more detail, we can identify, actually it's not a Boolean, it is set to a data type of string. So maybe you need to look at encoding that differently for your target schema. So a nice little test there. And let's go and have a look at the in range. Now, in range is, as I said, it was between, but it's one that not too many people have used because it's not immediately obvious what the syntax is. If you go and look at the help now is accessible via an F1, so if you select the transformer and push the F1 key, it will launch your help. Alternatively, you can bring in your transformer and click on the help in here to fire it up and take a look. And you can see in here that if you go and look at your test clauses, there's some examples of the different types of test clauses that you can use. So one of the interesting things here is that if I set this range to 20, 30 in square brackets, that will give me all the integers between 20 and 30, inclusive of the 20 and 30. So I'll have, in this case, 11 that pass. So if we look at the pass table view, you can see in here that I've got 20 to 30, and in failed I have 1 through 19 and 31 through to the end. The other little known fact about this is that you can also open-end it. So if I have 20 comma, then I will have everything from 20 routed through this process as a pass. So now I've got 61 that pass and 19 that fail. So hopefully, there we go, 20 through to the end. So the between operator is pretty useful from that respect. And then the last one, I guess if I had to have a favourite, some of you may suggest that if I've got favourite operators, then I really should get out more, but hopefully if we go and have a look in here, there we go, attribute as a value, you'll see also that this is pretty handy. Previously, if you wanted to identify whether an attribute has a value, you had to do a reverse, so a negative, effectively look for a negative in order to filter out your positives. So you would look for attribute is null and attribute is empty string and attribute is missing. And then you'd have to start looking at negating those to get the positive variation. But now it's much simpler. Park name, attribute has a value. Hopefully when we run this, we will find out whether we have any parks that don't have a name. And it seems that we have 15 that are a problem. So you might want to go and route that data off to a particular part of the workspace and maybe look up, do some sort of bounding box select on the data, or look at a spatial intersect query against a particular region in order to tag on a zone or a name onto that feature. So nice simple little addition to the tester and the test operators that hopefully will make your life a little bit simpler. And the next one is the inbuilt regex editor. Now this is pretty neat really, because one of SAFE's approaches is that they're trying to make the FME desktop interface more inclusive, in that you don't necessarily have to always leave the environment, the FME environment, to go and get an answer. Regular expressions are a very handy capability, although some of you, including myself in that grouping, find regular expressions a little bit tricky. They are extremely powerful. There is a little bit of a developer's joke that suggests that if you try and fix a problem with a regular expression, well then you've got two problems. That said, if you know somebody who can write regular expressions really well, perhaps you've got a developer friend who can help you out, then this can save you a lot of effort having to have multiple transformers if you just include a single regular expression. There is, as I say, a lot of help on the web that you can go and take a look at. Let's just look at a little simple approach here. So if I go and get a little workflow that I've got, and we'll pop that up. But just before that, I'm going to open up in the data inspector. So where's my data inspector? There it is. and I've got a little CSV file. Now I'm just going to drag and drop it, and it'll pick it up. I'm not going to worry about any of the parameters. I just want to quickly look at the raw content. And here you can see I've got two columns. One column contains, in this case, UK mobile phone numbers and the names of the people to whom they belong. So we're going to do a little bit of a validation check on this data and see if we rang one of these numbers, whether it would actually work. So you can see here that this one probably wouldn't, because that's my name rather than a phone number. So let's go and have a look at how this is done. So I've got a CSV reader just bringing the data in. The FME2016 attribute manager, if you haven't discovered that, it has been widely reported on in all of the What's New blogs and different webinars, so I'm not going to major on it at all, apart from saying that here I'm using it to rename a couple of attributes to phone number and name. And then the string searcher, and in this case, thank you to regexlib.com for this little regular expression. It is something that perhaps if you tried to write that straight away yourself would give you a little bit of a headache, but that regular expression is defined to validate a UK mobile phone number, and what we've got here is a little regex editor. So this is the new thing. In the regex editor we can then have our regular expression and punch in a phone number to go and check. So I suggest you don't go ringing that number, as I've just keyed it randomly. It's not going to get you very far, but you can see that we have one match, so that's a valid string. It's still valid if we put a space between the initial dialing code and the number. It's also still valid if we have a space separation between the first and second part of the number. It's not valid if we drop the front 0, but it is valid if we put a +44, which is the UK dialing code, on the front. So there's all sorts of variations to this syntax that would make it correct based on this regular expression. So it's a neat little testing tool, and you also have a little quick reference down here. Now previously, if I wanted to do this, then I would have launched a web browser and gone to a website like perhaps, let's just go and get rubula.com, which is a handy site, and effectively had a very similar editor included here, but I'd have to do that outside of FME. So now we've got that nested in the application. And just to go and have a look at how this is implemented in a few different places. So if we go and look at the string replacer, it's slightly hidden in the string replacer, because if we have use regular expression set to no and go and have a look in text to match, we only have a text editor. But if we toggle it to yes, now we have a regex editor available. So it's available in a few different locations. Wherever a regular expression is applicable, then you can go ahead and use that little editor. Okay. So the FME workspace reader. It's a little bit of a curveball. Why is there an FME workspace reader, and what's the point of it? Well, let's have a look. If you've ever right-clicked on an FMW file and opened it up in Notepad or a text editor, you'll see that it is actually an XML document. A long time ago, when FME was born, there really was no workbench application, and you actually had to handcraft text files. You had to handcraft them. They were called mapping files at the time, and effectively you wrote this document. Why might it be interesting to read that back? Well, there's a number of reasons. You might want to identify change between two workspaces that you've built. I've worked on a number of projects where I've taken an existing workspace and revised it, either improved it or slimmed it down, made it more effective. And in that case, I've wanted to run the process at the start to identify how many transformers there were in it, which transformers, what versions they were, that kind of thing, and then run it again on the completed workspace to effectively spot the difference and prove that I've been effective. You might want to find out what transformers could be upgraded in the process. You might want to work out and document all of the published parameters and their test sample values that are included in there prior to publishing to FME server. You may just want to go and extract the schema of all of the attributes that are in your data, including all the data type, to write that to a spreadsheet that perhaps you want to use as some sort of schema mapping exercise. So in the schema mapper transformer. So that's a little bit more advanced, but it's a really useful capability of the workspace reader. And prior to the workspace reader, what you had to do was write your own little process to do that. And I built one a few years ago, and Safe built a variation, and I know of other customers who've built their own as well. The kind of thing I'm talking about is a little FMW file, a little workspace in its own right. But in this case, it uses a text reader to read in that workspace. And if we just run it, I'm going to prompt and run this process, and I'm going to read in a large old workspace and write out a summary file. And while that goes away, here's the text file that it's writing out. So I'll just open up the workspace that it's reading. So if I just fire up another instance of Workbench and pop that in there. So it reads every row in the spreadsheet, in the workspace as a line of text. So that's completed. But I just want to quickly show you the workspace that it's reading, because there's quite a lot of content in there, and that will also suggest where we're going to next in a moment. So this is so workspace is what, 14 meg in size. It's quite a big one. That's rare. It's got a lot of content in this process. It's more normal to have a workflow of a few kilobytes. While that's opening up anyway, there we go. So it's arrived. So if I just go and zoom extents, you can see the level of content in there. And I'm going to leave that open for the time being, because I'm going to come back to it in a moment. So if we're going to have a look at our summary file, you can see in here that this workspace that reads that other workspace tells me that there are a total of 337 transformers in that workflow, 68 of which are attribute exposers. And there are some custom transformers in there, and there's 3 attribute filters. And you can adapt this process to go and look at the version of transformer as well that's in there. So let's go and have a look at the way that this is managed without doing it the hard way and writing the process yourself. If we go to the readers and add in the workspace reader, FME workspace FMW reader, and I'm going to point it at a workflow, we'll have that one. And rather than merging all the feature types, I just want to expose the ones that are interesting in here. You can see there's a lot available to you, so I'll leave that on the screen for a moment just while I select a few of interest. So I'd like the transformers, and I'd like to have a look at the published parameters, I think, and I think we'll have some of the feature type user attributes, which are here, and we'll just bring just those in. Okay, and if we right click and connect inspectors, and I'm just going to do a slight resizing so you can see the names. and if I run that now on that workspace and send the data, you can see that you can bring in bookmarks, you can bring in annotations, you can bring in parameters, you name it. All the content that's in your workspace you can bring back. We get a little unexpected input. That pop-up just suggests that there were other layers that I could have brought in, but I didn't want to have all of those just to begin with. So here's our attributes, so feature type user attributes. Lots of different user attribute names, all their data types, the published parameters that are included in this workflow, so you can see that assorted parameter names, assorted test values that are included in there. And then one of the interesting ones is the transformers list, because here you can see the name of the transformer and the actual official name. So this is the name that has been defined on the canvas. So if there was more than one tester, then you might have a suffix name, or if you've renamed them yourself. But most importantly, it shows you the current version and the maximum version. And there's a couple of subtleties in here that you might not have spotted. If I go and do a sort numeric descending, you can see that the duplicate remover, for example, has got a max version of 254, which is slightly nonsensical. What that actually means is that the duplicate remover has now been deprecated in the latest version of FME, and it's now called the duplicate filter. You can also see that there are a number of custom transformers in here that are also tagged as 254. Now the suggestion is there, I think, that this workspace is so old that it predates the ability to have versioning on custom transformers. So none of those transformers have versions assigned to them. But you can see that transformers in particular, like the feature merger, have had a huge amount of effort on them since this transformer was planted on the canvas in 2013 to today. And more on that in a moment. So an interesting, if not immediately obvious, how that reader might be of use to you, but it's definitely worth taking a look at. Okay, so upgradable transformers. This is a bit of a big deal. It's been something I've campaigned for a long time, and it's finally made it into FME. Some of you might be aware that every year when you download the FME installer, it's slightly bigger each year. One of the reasons for that is that every transformer that's ever been created in FME is still in FME. So I mean, if you were to go and open up a workspace from years and years ago, you might find that you could add a transformer in an old version of FME called the grepper. Effectively, the grepper is now the string searcher, but you could open up an old workspace authored a long time ago that included a grepper on the canvas, and if you opened it up in FME2016, that grepper transformer would still be there. So there is the reference to old transformers stored away. Over time, transformers are revised, renamed, maybe combined with multiple other transformers, like the recent HTTP caller and all of the equivalent transformers that were prefixed with HTTP that got merged together, like the duplicate remover that's now called the duplicate filter. But underlying things that happen with the transformers might be that they are updated to be more performant. And you can expose the transformer version in your workspace by turning that on in your tools drop-down menu. If you go to FME options, you can go and look at that transformers page and display the transformer version so that you can hover over a tooltip and look at the current version of the transformer. But what I'm going to do is just show you a little part of the interface so you can see what's going on. So if I bring in that workflow from before and move my attention away from the workspace, but focus on this new section called Upgradeable Transformers. Here you can see that in this workspace there are 153 transformers that are potentially upgradable. Now this is an extreme example. This is not typical at all. It's a very large workspace that was written quite a while ago, but it's perfect to demonstrate some of the capabilities here. So upgradable transformers, if we go and have a look at, for example, the attribute copier, we can take a look and find that we have 12 of them, and you can see that the canvas moves around on the right hand side there to show me where the transformer is that we're looking at. So I can zoom right in and it will take me to the one that we're interested in looking at. And the suggestion is here that these transformers are version 2, but the latest version is version 5. So if we go and have a look at the bulk attribute renamer, take a look at this one here, right click on it, you have the option to upgrade the transformer, but actually before we get that far it might be healthy to see what changes have been made. We click on the changes, it will go and show us the version log and what's happened between. Now you sort of have to take upgrading with a pinch of salt. One thing to make sure I'm very clear on is that when you have a transformer of an old version in a workflow, there is the theory that if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So if you've got a transformer in a workspace and the workspace works perfectly, there is no need to upgrade it. That's the whole point of FME. You can author a process in FME2003 and in theory it should still be working in 2016. However, if you do have a workflow that is used in production and you want to make it more efficient or more performant or finish in a quicker time or use memory more efficiently, then in some instances, especially where you see improved performance, it's probably worth upgrading that transformer. The key thing to be aware of though is just how you go about doing that upgrade, because a transformer upgrade could bring in new ports, new parameters, new anything really, and sometimes the way that they operate could change. So if you right click, the first thing you can do is try to upgrade it, and if you say yes, you're sure you want to continue, this will give you an interface that shows you the difference between the two transformers, the one that's on the canvas, version 0 in this case, and the one that is new. And in this case, if we remind ourselves of the changes, then we can see that it added the ability to copy instead of renaming, and if we just took that out of the way, we can see that the mode here has got the option to keep original attributes or rename included there as a parameter. But we've also got that performance capability, which isn't something that you'd see necessarily on the interface. How I'd go about upgrading this would be to go and get the latest transformer, drop it onto the canvas, hover my cursor over this one to prove that, as you can see in the tooltip, that over on the left hand side is version 0, but the latest version is version 4. And if I hover my cursor over this one here, we can see that that one is version 4. So I would implement this change in a very careful way by effectively disabling that transformer, and this workspace takes a little bit of time to react because it is so large, but I'd hook that in, and then I would pop open this bulk attribute renamer and replicate the parameter values in this transformer here and run it and test it. So we make sure that no data passes through here, it goes around, and then I'd analyze the results before I committed to deleting that transformer. So obviously it would be a big job to go and upgrade that workflow, but normally you would have something a little bit more manageable, like perhaps just 14 to do, or maybe just a couple. And as I said, you don't have to. Just take care, have a look at what's changed, but hopefully you've got a nice new feature there to potentially use more of SAFE's development time effectively to make your processes more efficient. And then there's the last of the top 5 here, 5 hot features, and it sort of brings with it a slightly new dawn. Some of you might expect me to be focusing my attention on the feature writer transformer, but really I'd like to look at a new transformer called the emailer, because if you couple that transformer with the transformer, the feature writer, there are some interesting capabilities that you can look at doing. So FME2016.1, the beta was launched last night at about 3 in the morning UK time, in that beta there will be starting to filter in some of the 2016.1 new features that SAFE have talked about. So for example, there will be support for MongoDB at some point soon. It's not necessarily in the beta at the moment, but the suggestion is that that will be in the .1 formal release. Up until last night, as I say, if you went to safe.com/beta, there were no beta builds here until the early hours of the morning, but they are all there now to go and grab. I would suggest that you take betas with a little bit of pinch of salt. Sometimes they're not always what you would hope they would be, but the word beta is the health warning there. They do allow you to get hold of the latest functionality and test it out, and potentially contribute to how you'd like that process to be revised prior to a formal release. SAFE's approach to getting involved with FME is possible through the Knowledge Centre here, and if you go and have a look at the Knowledge Centre, then there is community answers, and there's also an ideas exchange. So you can go into the ideas and you can post an idea that you might be interested in being included in FME, and go and make that available to the community to see what other people think. Anyway, let's focus on this emailing approach for a moment. I'm just going to pop open a workflow that we can have a look at. So I've got a workspace tucked away somewhere, hiding from me. There we go. And drop it into the canvas. And the reason why this is a new dawn is that you can see here I don't have a reader or a writer. I have a feature reader which has been around for a little while, which is going away and being triggered to go and read some data. In this case, it's a little tab file called parks. And I'm using the new attribute manager to restructure the schema slightly, because I'm writing to a shape file and I need to truncate or elegantly truncate a couple of the attribute names. So nay and special features are becoming, sorry, neighborhood name is becoming nay, and special features is becoming features. And then I'm using the new feature writer to write down the data to a target location, and that gives me an indication in an attribute of the total number of features that have been written. And you also see I'm using a little trick here. This is a, what is it called? It's a system parameter. FME2016, that's actually the full path to the workspace. So wherever the workspace is stored into a subdirectory of that directory, the out directory, is where I'm always going to write the data. So it means that this workspace becomes portable. I will always write the data locally to the workspace. So that's a little trick to be aware of in terms of a parameter. And in this case, I'm writing to the Python emailer, the point I'm making here is that I can run this process and send a job trigger a read, restructure the schema, write the data to disk, and then email me to tell me, perhaps over the weekend, that the process has been done if this process is run with a scheduled workflow. So what you can see then is, if we drag over my email client, I've got an email that says the process was completed successfully, there's no need to worry. And if we go and have a look inside it, it tells me, congratulations, the total number of features that was written was 80. And the 80 value is derived from the little, where has it gone? There it is, little attribute value here. And you can see that I've basically pulled in a value of total number of features written into the email message. So at the moment I'm doing this because I've got 2016.0, I'm doing it with the Python emailer. The Python emailer is a custom transformer you can download from the FME store. You won't be surprised to realize that because it's called the Python emailer, if I open it up, there is actually a Python caller transformer buried in there. However, if you go and get the .1 release, you can download that, get hold of the emailer transformer, and that is an official transformer that's going to be supported by SAFe in more of a structured way than this custom transformer that's been generated. It really is going to allow you to write data and then immediately do something else. So in this case, we could email, we could have an FTP transformer to publish the data to an FTP site, any post-process. And what this avoids you having to do is having one workspace followed by another workspace, or one workspace followed by a potentially awkward startup or shutdown script that you would have to write buried down here in the workspace parameters. So previously you would have written perhaps a Python script to email yourself or one of your administrators when a process had finished, because the writer that you were using is outside of the transformation process. So now, as soon as the data is written, you can do something else afterwards. And the capabilities are limitless, really. What I would say, the slight health warning on the current beta is it is a beta. Don't go rushing for the beta if you definitely want to use that emailer just yet. It's not quite ready. Wait for the next point release, and then it should be a happier experience for you to use that emailer transformer. But that's really all I wanted to say on the .1 beta and the emailer transformer. It is really going to be the start of a new dawn of the way that you might produce your workflows. So that's it for today, the 5 features that we wanted to highlight. Thank you very much for attending. Usual URLs to go and have a look at. Go and take a look at SAFe's website, have a look at ours, onespatial.com/FME. The Knowledge Centre, if you haven't been there, then you ought to. It is an extremely powerful resource. Lots of very avid users of that site. They're likely able and willing to answer the questions that you might be posting to the community answers area. There's plenty of blogs and YouTube videos to go and take a look at. Do have a look at our YouTube site, youtube.com/onespatialgroup. If I just pop that up for you, you can see that there. We've got a number of videos, but if you go to the playlists, go and take a look at the FME channel. All of our historic webinars are listed there for you. This webinar will be there again shortly, later today, hopefully, and you'll be able to see that. You can get in touch with us via the usual Twitter handles. And I also want to mention that FME World Tour 2016 is coming to a city near you very soon. So go to onespatial.com/FMEWT and that will give you our registration page for the Southampton, Cardiff, Manchester and Edinburgh events happening in April. We're on a bit of a roadshow, a whirlwind tour around the cities delivering lots of fun presentations and sessions on FME2016. Those events are usually lots of fun, so do come and join us. The call for papers is still open, so if you're interested in speaking at one of those events, please get in touch with us at fme@onespatial.com, and we hope to see you there. And apart from that, thank you all very much for attending. As I say, this session will be up on YouTube shortly, so if you want to revisit any of that content, then go ahead. And obviously there's my contact details as well. Thank you very much, and if you have any questions, please put them into the chat window and we'll hang online and take any questions you might have. Thank you.